friends. Welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number 154, I think. Today is May 2nd, Friday, May 2nd, 2025. Time is crazy, isn't it? Thanks so much for joining me. I'm glad to have you tune in again to my video, and I hope that you'll find something of interest. Flosstube means cross stitch, and variety show means something else, and we'll see. You know, sometimes I settle down and think, well, this is going to be a really short video, and it turns out to be just as long as the normal ones, and other times I think, well, this is going to be really long, and then I think I've run out of things to say. I think this is going to be short, but who knows? Who knows? I will first show you Margaret Hutton. This is, I've been working on this for a year. I started it a year ago tomorrow, I think. It was the event project for Mrs. Parkman's Academy of Needlework's presentation at Queen City Sampler Guild in Cincinnati last year, a year ago. I drove up there for that. It says here, workshop for the Queen City Sampler Guild. I drove up there for that and started the sampler during the weekend. This is a Scottish sampler, and we were given the floss and the fabric as part of the kit, and I, have not finished it. But this is 36 count. I think it is. Muddy Duck by Tabbycat Linens. And it's Soie d'Argent silk. So since I last showed it to you, I stitched some more of these curlicue, I guess they're called illuminated letters, and stitched some more of this the small over 2 threads eyelet band. I don't enjoy doing it. I don't think it looks nice. I may switch back to using, to doing the rest of it in Smyrna crosses. I don't think it matters that I switch back and forth in the same band. I mean, so when I started a thread last night, the first several stitches were not good, and then it got better. So maybe if I just carry on. But I don't think you'll catch me making an eyelet band over 2 stitches anytime soon, because it's not fun. And I also filled in the flower parts of these 2 motifs. As you may recall, a few weeks ago, I traveled down in order to be able to place queen stitches, and I had just done sort of a bare minimum of those in order to get down here. But I went back and filled in the flowers, so those 2 motifs are finished. There's another queen stitch flower bud that goes here, and there's a big cartouche type thing there. So this is what you're seeing. And I've been thinking about this sampler. So there's not any history known about the stitcher. She didn't give a date or a location. Nicola believes in her research that it's a Scottish sampler through various reasons, including the peacocks and the crowns and the initials and things like that. And so I've been thinking about how I want to deal with there are many crowns. I think there are 8 or so crowns with initials under them. And they are doubtless Margaret Hutton's relatives. And I think, let's see, I think I counted yesterday. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 5 of the ten relatives that she honors in her sampler had first names starting with I. So there's IH all over this. And, well, actually, I will say there are 10 sets of initials. 8 of which end in H, and 5 of those are IH. So 3 of them are other things. But then she also has AS. Actually, that's another H. I thought it was an M, but it isn't. So there are 9 H's, 10 H's. I don't know. There's a bunch. A disproportionate number of people were named I. Maybe it's Ian. I mean, if this is Scottish, Ian, Ivan, Ivy, Ivis, my friend Ivis. So anyway, I don't know. But I was thinking I might note down some initials that I could put that are from my family, Byron's family, to memorialize in this sampler instead of these people. I would still use her name, Margaret Hutton, but I would put my own name somewhere. There's places I could put my initials and the date in this. I realized there was something I meant to show you. Well, guess what? I don't think I'm going to pause the video to find it. So you'll have to wait till next time. So anyway, Margaret Hutton. Now I think I'm going to try to focus on this month. Given the other things that I want to do this month, I don't think I'll finish this. But I could get quite a bit done if I focus on it. So watch this space. See if that happens. I'm going to go ahead and show you Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather again because I did do 600 stitches and I wanted to talk about the status of this. So here it is. You can see that I've done, maybe you can see, I mean you probably can't, but I've done more down here. This is the dress of one of the people standing there. And the end of the marble is almost finished. There is one stitch that's not done because I can't find the bobbin of thread. I'm sure it's here. It's here somewhere. And so I have 12,000 stitches to go, roughly. I'm at 82.8%. 12,000 stitches would be, I mean, it's very doable for me to finish this year. At the rate I'm going, at the pace that I had set myself, which was to finish it in 365 days of 54 stitches a day, I think, I will actually finish this the beginning of December. But I'm going to be not stitching on it for at least 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks coming up, depending on what travel I do or my husband and I do coming up. For instance, we're going to be gone for 3 days starting Sunday. So don't know. That means that it won't be the beginning of December. If it isn't the beginning of December, if it gets very deep into the month, then things get very difficult to actually make lots of progress on a project like that. So I don't know. I may have to try to pick up the pace before then. There are ways to do that. Now I want to talk to you about Hannah Green, 1826. Several of you are participating in a stitch along, which is designed to finish this on March 1st, 2026, which is 200 years after Hannah Green finished it. And I am doing that. I divided it up for that, and I want to first of all say, I'm going to explain again my rationale for how I divided it, and then tell you that I think I was possibly wrong, and tell you how I'm going to adjust my plans, because let me just say, this solid stitching down here, this was April's section. It's a killer. That's a big lawn for somebody to keep mowed, even though they have sheep, which doubtless crop the grass in some areas. It's a huge lawn. So here, I did finish it. I did. I was not sure I was going to, but down here's the April section, this lawn. Here's the shepherd and 3 of his sheep. 2 deer are going along, his dog, and the cat. Now the cat, I think it's a cat. I think it has a striped tail. It's sitting upright, and it's wrapped its tail around its front feet, as cats do. And I think it's a calico cat, thus it's yellow and white and black. And it's huge, but disproportionality is part of the charm of these samplers, so I'm pretty sure that's a cat. And I worked on this until about midnight, April 30th, and finished what I finished. Now I came in, I didn't go straight down here because there's another sheep right there. He's facing this side of the, he's facing this way. And I did not want to accidentally stitch where his nose is supposed to start, so I didn't. I made sure to steer clear, leave a pretty wide area that won't be sheep, that I'll just come back to. But I still love this. It's just that it's a lot of stitching. So let me go revisit the plan. So this was the plan, where we're going to start up this corner and go down, so that in the 4th month, which is April, we would start this large area of full coverage stitching. So April, and then come back up and go across May, June, July, August, and each of those, August, September, and October, each of those times, and maybe, I can't remember which ones, but be stitching one line at a time of the verse, the Jesus permit thy gracious name to stand verse, and her name, and all these little birds, which are over 1 there in the center. And I think still that that's a better plan. No. For me, it's a better plan than it would be to go do all the way across or do the whole border first and that sort of thing and end up with all of the solid stitching at the end. But the way I've laid it out, you do this much solid stitching now, and then all of this solid stitching is 3 months in a row at the very end. And that, my friends, is going to be really difficult. I'm not going to do it that way after all. I'm going to go ahead and do May and start the verse over 1, and then I might slip in and do June, or I might carry on and start doing more of this solid stitching in the lawn, or I might do the fence around the house. In other words, I'm going to really try to keep moving forward on the solid stitching to get to it faster than leaving it all to the end. Now, I love solid stitching. I mean, I just showed you under the roof of blue Ionian weather. Clearly, I like solid stitching. But this type of solid stitching really takes it out of you. So that's my plan. You're going to see that I'm going to deviate from this chart. Now, I know some of you are, because you're working on scroll bars, you've started at the top and you're going across, and then you'll move you'll do this and end up at the middle and so on. And what that will do is that will give you all of the over 1 in, one sort of swath of the chart, of the sampler, and you'll get that done, and then you'll head down to the house and the lawn. But I think we who stitch samplers, some of us only want to do cross stitch, some of us don't mind over 1 and love motifs. Some of us don't mind the lawns and the big houses, but don't like over 1. And some of us are happy with any of it. And those of us who are happy with any of it, this is for us. This sampler is for us because there's some of everything. But so there is no specialty stitch other than the over 1, I think. I can't remember. Maybe it's possible, maybe the eyes of the peacock's tail feathers are satin stitch. That might be, but the rest of it is not. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do. Watch this space. So I worked a little bit on Bertram. This was from the All Things Bright and Beautiful red box. I really enjoy this. This I could whip out in a week or something, but I'm not going to try it to be that fast. But you see that I have moved on and done since the last time. The last time I had done up through the pipe there. So I moved on and started the church. So I did the greenery over on this side. There's bushiness here, and then there's a yellow cross up at the top. And there's sort of a ground under there that's made of brown and yellow stitching. I may have brought the border over a bit more since the last time I showed this also. But very enjoyable. This is 46 count Latte by, not sure who it's by. And I'm using 103s, the ones that are called for in the chart. That's one of the nice things about Hands Across the Sea, which you'll notice I do a lot of. She charts it for Soie d'Argent, 103s, and DMC, and they're all equally beautiful. Hannah Green I'm doing in DMC on 36 count, just the ticket. I did a tiny bit more on this, Old Willow Stitchery, the Thistle, Royal Thistle Sampler and accessories. And all I did, because I do love rice stitch, is I just did the little rice stitch band. I was talking to Leslie on the phone, or Zooming the other day, and I was talking about these thistles. Let's see if I can get the light on that better. That's a little better. So you see that they're pointed at the top, and that's not how thistles are in my view. I mean, I have had very limited knowledge of seeing thistles in the wild. But thistles I think of as being flat across the top with sort of bushiness out the top of it to make it, you know, it goes like this, sort of is the thistle shape. So I may come back on those and add purple stitches to the top of those before I add the little straight stitches that add the little fuzziness to them. I mean, we'll see. I may just end up doing it the way it's charted. As I pointed out last time, it's hard to actually tell how it's charted, but I still may. I may try to do that. But this rice stitch, lavender rice stitch border was very nice. This is 46 count, I believe Hemingway, and I'm using 103s. So that is all the stitching I have to show. Oh, there is something else I wanted to show actually, so hold on, I'm not finished. At the same time that I was working on this, I was thinking ahead to May, and I was thinking about the over one stitching, and so I stitched a little sample here. Now, if you look closely at that, you'll see that there are two different colors of dark green there. And I'm sorry that I did it that way, because I should have gone ahead and gotten the dark green DMC that's called for. That that is there, because that would let you see more clearly what's going on. Sorry, I've been a little distracted. A call just came in and I have let the person go to voicemail. But the lighter color green is this thread. It's the lawn thread, and it's not the color that's called for in the over one verse, but it's DMC over one on 36 count. And the other, the darker green, is the color that's called for, and it's 103. And I thought there would be a huge difference. And I hope those are focusing. I can't tell at all. But there really isn't as much difference as I thought there would be. Now I'm planning to stitch it in 103 because I have it. And because it's a little easier to maneuver the stitching. But I just wanted to point out that depending on the weight of fabric you're using, of course, you're gonna choose how you're gonna do that over one. But it is actually possible on 36 count to do nice work in over one using DMC, one strand of DMC. Okay, variety show. Thanks so much for those of you who commented with appreciation on the special edition video I did a couple of weeks ago that where I read the Paul Revere's Ride by Longfellow. For some reason, I once said Tennyson. I don't know why in the world I said Tennyson. Longfellow. So I really like illustrated children's books. I think I've said this many times before. There was a time that I would go to the bookstore when, we went to bookstores and look through the children's book section. And I, having no children at the time, no grandchildren, no hangers-on who were children, would still buy illustrated children's books because I just really like them. I have 25 of them. I used to actually look for the Caldecott medal winners, which were for illustrated children's books. But I have a lot, and I particularly thought that I would show you 2 more books that are, I'm sorry, they're probably out of print, but you might be able to find them at your local library if you have a young person in your life or you just want to see them for yourself, that are illustrations of poems, and then one other that's an illustration of a longer work. But this is Robert Frost stopping by woods on a snowy evening, and it's illustrated by Susan Jeffers. Now I have another couple books illustrated by Susan Jeffers which are not classic poems like this, but she does a beautiful job with horses, and that's one of the reasons that I like her illustrations. And I'll just show you the first page. Whose woods these are, I think I know. I believe I have this poem memorized, but I'm not going to recite it for you. So I might do something similar to what I did in that other video, but it's mostly black and white because, she's in the woods and it's dark, but there's just these pops of color in the illustrations. So I might do a video that features that book, but this is a really splendid book. William Blake was an oddball. I mean, he was very interesting, possibly schizophrenic or something, I don't know. He was a very interesting poet, thinker of the 18th century, I think. Yeah, I think so. Anyway, the Tyger, which is from not Songs of Innocence, but the other one. Anyway, Tyger, Tyger, burning bright in the forests of the night. And this illustrator, Neil Waldman, has done a single illustration of the poem that captures the elements that are mentioned in it. And this book presents that illustration. So here's the cover. And I'll just open randomly to a page. And so he shows, for instance, in this is the line, when the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears. And you can see that what is being talked about is in color, but it's in the context of black and white about the rest of the illustration. And you don't ever see the full illustration until the end of the story when the publisher, I mean, this is really brilliant. Here is the whole illustration. Well, it's most of the illustration, I should say, without color. But then you open it up. You can see that I'm opening this up. And here's the whole illustration of this poem with all of the things that are mentioned. Did he who made the lamb make thee? I mean, just a beautiful book. And a beautiful poem amidst a collection. I mean, William Blake's poems are not all beautiful. Some of them are very weird. But this is a really beautiful poem, I think. So then the other book I'm going to show you is Black Ships Before Troy, illustrated by Alan Lee. And this is a retelling or it's the story of the Iliad by Rosemary Sutcliffe. Now, Alan Lee's illustrations is why I bought this. I mean, I I'm interested in the book, The Iliad, the poem, The Iliad by Homer. But Alan Lee is the primary illustrator of The Lord of the Rings, of Tolkien's works, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. And if you watch those movies, his illustrations are what all the sets and decor of those movies was based on, because his imagination, I think he worked with Tolkien on it, or Tolkien knew about him and approved of his vision for what was going on. So I was very interested to see his illustrations of another great work. So the Iliad, just a set of very lovely illustrations. Here we have when the Trojans have set fire to the ships, or somebody has set fire to somebody's ships. But you can imagine that if you had a child of the right age to be interested in the adventure story of the Iliad, that reading a book like this that has such dramatic illustrations in it might be a way to really get them interested in it. And I just think this is wonderful. And so many, I mean, look here. They're building the Trojan horse. Such a great book. I mean, a great poem. And an excellent illustration. The movie Troy, which was from the, I'm going to say it was around 2002 or so. It had, I mean, I don't know anything about movies, but I happen to have watched this movie a couple times. It had Sean Bean in it, I think, and Brad Pitt, and another actor who was, it had Orlando Bloom. The movie was a fantastic movie. I mean, it was very disturbing in some ways. There was some degree of nudity made it R-rated, and the violence made it R-rated. But it's an excellent movie and that is the story of Troy, the siege of Troy, and so on. But I mean, it's the story of the Iliad basically. But this book is fantastic. I really like it. So that's another example of a children's book that illustrates a classic story. In this case, it's not the poem. It is not the entire text of the Iliad. It's a retelling of the events that the Iliad covers. But the other two, the Tyger, William Blake, illustrated by Neil Waldman, and Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, poem by Robert Frost, illustrated by Susan Jeffers. Excellent. And if you like this kind of thing, your library no doubt has excellent selection of similar items, better selection than my little collection of books. And they are available on places like eBay and other secondary thrift books, things like that. You can probably find things like this. And I just enjoy it. And, maybe perhaps at some point I'll have a child to sit by my side while I read these to them, and we'll discuss the pictures. But even if I never do, I certainly have enjoyed these books myself. And I believe I read them to my own son when he was little. Some of them I got after he was little, though. So that is what I have to share with you. Now, just a couple of housekeeping notes. I'm going to be out of town Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And I think, therefore, I'm not going to do a Flosstube next Friday because I won't have hardly any cross-stitch to show you. My husband and I are going to the beach with some friends. At the beach, I will probably take some knitting because there will be some sitting around time. But there's a lot of socializing and jigsaw puzzling and game playing and eating, lots of eating. And so it's just too complicated to take cross-stitch with my magnifier and all of that. If I do take cross-stitch, it will be Harriet Salt because that's just one color thread and it's much easier to transport. But I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna try to take cross stitch. So that means no video probably next Friday, but I will come back on May, whatever the date will be. Don't know. If any of you are interested in following my path through the Sudoku Grand Prix, that's this weekend, the 5th round. I have not done well the past 2 rounds, or maybe, I don't know. Of the 4 rounds we've had, I think 2 of them have been okay, and 2 of them have not been good at all. So I'm hoping to have a better round this time. I'm not sure when I'm going to do it, though, since we're going to be gone. But it starts today, perhaps already. It may have started. It starts at some maybe European Standard Time or European Daylight Time, whatever time they're in these days, which is 6 hours different from us. So it probably has started. And then it goes until sometime on Wednesday. I'm not sure if it's Wednesday at noon European time, which would be 6 a.m. here, or if it's Wednesday at midnight, in which case would be 6 p.m. I'm not sure about that. So I do have some possibilities. I have today and tomorrow, though I have a big day planned tomorrow, and I have Tuesday evening and Wednesday. Yeah, it's going to have to be today or tomorrow. It is. Anyway, again, this is not the year that I'm going to be revealed as a star in the Sudoku firmament. Okay, that I think really is all. Thanks so much for joining me on this pleasant Friday, summery May 2nd afternoon. I hope you have a great couple weeks of stitching ahead of you and some wonderful plans. Mother's Day is coming up. This weekend is Blackbird Designer Weekend, Stitch Along BBD Weekend Sal. I may or may not do a Blackbird stitching this weekend. By the time I come back, it'll be the day before Nativity Sal, and I will have chosen what I'm doing about that by then. So watch this space, as I have said before. Thanks for joining me, friends, and many blessings.